Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today, and it is time for a fun one. And by a fun one, I mean we're talking about Fallout, which means it's always fun. Now, we have a particular bit of news here to open up this video that I think viewers of my channel are going to be really excited about the premise of and what that could potentially mean. It's a bit of speculation, but we're also going to be getting into what's going on with Season 2 of the Fallout TV show, how many awards it's bringing in, when Season 2 may drop. Got a lot of little tidbits here. It's July, so naturally, as I've talked about before, this is the month where you can really focus in on the smaller stories and talk about them a little more extensively. So we're going to do just that here today. If you're new here and you're into Bethesda, Fallout content, you're in the right place. Consider subscribing. I want to start off with this story because my response to it is give this man whatever budget he wants, however much time he needs, and let him cook for the Fallout license. Who are we talking about? But Swen Vink and Larian. With this article here from PC Gamer titled, Larian CEO Swen Vink says there were only two other RPG series he was interested in working on if he couldn't get Baldur's Gate, Fallout and Ultima. He says, I felt there was a glass ceiling that we wouldn't be able to break through unless we have AAA production values, budget, marketing, all the AAA things, Vink says. And only a few big name games could make that happen. It would have been Ultima, it would have been Fallout, it would have been Baldur's Gate, he said. There was not a lot to choose from. Obviously, we know where things went, Baldur's Gate. But now, since then, Larian has moved on from Baldur's Gate entirely. No DLC, no more post-launch support outside of hot fixes and the occasional update, but otherwise, they have moved on entirely from Baldur's Gate. And they've since confirmed they're working on two video games. One, I think, is a very safe assumption to be Divinity Original Sin 3. I imagine, with that being Larian's baby, that they're going to want to take that game and give it the Baldur's Gate 3 treatment and see if they can bring that series to the next level. Divinity Original Sin has always been amazing, and I always get this bit of nostalgia thinking of the first Original Sin game because we did make a video of it here on this channel, which I've talked about numerous times, where it was, to me, a hidden gem, and it's so funny seeing how popular Baldur's Gate 3 is and where Larian's at now. Now, allow me to preface all of my excitement and speculation by saying that keep in mind this quote was made in light of them breaking that glass ceiling that Swen was talking about above the company's head. They needed a big AAA game, a big IP to do so, and he had his selection of Baldur's Gate, Fallout, and Ultima, and he ended up getting Baldur's Gate. Okay, they got that. They then moved on. No real post-launch support. Said it didn't feel right. Does that mean, okay, the big IP has now served its purpose. We're going to go work on our own stuff now? I could totally see a world like that. I mean, this company is fiercely independent, but it's still something that I wanted to make sure I address here before we get into the very fun speculation. Seeing that they would be interested in working on Fallout is like a dream game to me. A lot of people always ask me, like, Maddie, we know your favorite game of all time is KOTOR, but like, look, you got a lot of nostalgia with that game. Like, is it ever possible that a game could replace that? And the answer is always yes. Like, I'm open-minded to that. It's going to take a lot to get there, but it's definitely possible. But I've always said that if there is a company that could make my next favorite game of all time, it was Larian with the right IP. I'm just not a big enough fantasy head to sit here and say that Baldur's Gate 3 is like a favorite game of all time for me. Like, the world, the setting, and the characters mean a lot to me. And in particular, I think Baldur's Gate 3 nails all that and made me a fan of the series. But if you gave Larian, who has the ability to do all of that so well with Fallout or Star Wars, I'd lose my mind. But now Fallout's in this really interesting position. This is where the situation gets really interesting to me because now you have two, in my opinion, goated RPG developers that are being vocal about a potential desire or interest of working on the Fallout franchise. Obsidian's been very loud about this, constantly saying like, hey, we want at least one more chance. And I feel like with Fallout being in the Xbox family of studios and Obsidian Bethesda being owned by Xbox, like, I feel like that's just a matter of when, not if. But then I see something like this, and there was only one other company in my head that I thought was a realistic possibility of reviving like the old school style Fallout 1 and 2 games. And that would be inXile, right? They did Wasteland. They have the assets there. Make a new Fallout game in the Wasteland engine. Like, why not, right? But then I look at Larian, I'm like, well, as much as I love inXile and think they delivered a top tier RPG experience in Wasteland 3, I would not be upset at all if all of a sudden Larian stepped in and said, like, we'll take over reviving the older style Fallout games. I just think it's a perfect fit, not just for the old school fans who have been wanting to get a little love on that side of the fence, but also, like, I think Larian has the ability to bring Fallout fans to this style of RPG and make them love it. Like, the best thing about Baldur's Gate 3 was how uncompromising it was in like the difficulty, in its character development, in its secrets, in its multiple endings. Like, Larian didn't change anything for the popularity, and it's still completely soared to a whole new level. To think of them doing that with Fallout, like, I'd lose my mind. So I hope Bethesda saw this, maybe picked up the phone, just saw, hey, what's the plan moving forward, guys? Like, is there something we could do here? I know this is coming from an optimist point of view. If you were to ask me, like, Maddie, what's the percentage chance of this happening right now? Like, I'd say like 30% chance this is happening right now. But to see the interest is there, I wonder if there were any preliminary calls, if there's any type of discussions. I mean, I would just love to see Larian in sci-fi of any kind, but if it was Fallout, we may be talking about my next favorite game of all time. I would love to see that happen. So I wanted to share this news here because I think, you know, a little bit of chatter. We see how it's going with Obsidian, that they continue to put feelers out there. Maybe people will see this and realize there's a demand for Fallout Larian, and we'll see where it goes from there. But nonetheless, wanted to put that on your radar. Next one here is really interesting in that Fallout Season 2 reportedly ahead of schedule and won't have an anthology format. In a new interview with Variety, Jennifer Salke and Vernon Sanders discuss the current state of Fallout Season 2, which is reportedly on schedule and apparently making swift progress. Vernon Sanders, head of TV, revealed that, quote, I think we're ahead of schedule in terms of being able to get Season 2 back, end quote. They clarified that the creative team still can't offer a concrete launch date or window. However, Sanders did add that, quote, we've already gotten scripts in hand, end quote. This should give fans a better idea of the development timeline. Continuing on, they say, in addition to Fallout's schedule, Amazon MGM Studios chief Jennifer Salke addressed rumors about Season 2 shifting to an anthology format. Some fans believed it would allow the writers to explore the wider lore of the series. In today's report, Salke did express some interest, saying, quote, it does have a lot of doors we can go through, end quote. However, they reinforced that the show will continue the storyline of the existing characters established in Season 1. Salke clarified that, quote, we are fully committed. The more we hear about Season 2, the more I'm feeling like it's not going to be a long shot to hear that this is coming out at the top of 2026. I mean, we might see a trailer by the end of 2025 even. Like, I feel they're storming away. To have scripts in hand already for Season 2 and having them, like, rehearsing lines, getting a feel for the plot. They, number one, had to have had a vision, but number two, like, sprinted away with this success, which is, as a Fallout fan, what I was hoping to see. It's interesting to see how it's developed, though. What went from my initial perspective of this could be an interesting experiment to, oh my God, that was so good, I want Season 2 as soon as possible. The only thing I hope for, as I've talked about in the past, is that if Season 2 is to arrive sooner rather than later, that it still has the same time, care, and quality put into it that Season 1 had there. Yeah, Season 1 had the surprise factor of many of us going in, as we always do with video game, TV, and movie stuff, thinking, how is this gonna fare? Like, you know, I'm thinking of the Borderlands movie coming out soon. Like, how is this gonna fare? There's always that degree of uncertainty, but when it delivers, like a Cyberpunk Edgerunners or a Fallout TV show, or even the initial seasons of The Witcher, it's like, oh, okay, hold on. Now we're cooking. Give us more as soon as possible. It feels like it can't be that far off in the terms of, you know, a couple of years from now, like 2 years from now. I mean, you hear how The Boys Season 4 is wrapping up this week, or did wrap up this week, and in a couple of years, in 2026, is the final season. So I feel like 2 years isn't that much of a stretch. And if they're ahead of schedule, maybe we hear or see something about 2025. On a quick separate note here about them kind of ignoring the anthology style of storytelling and continuing the story from Season 1, I don't want to spoil anything, but like, yeah, the way it ended felt pretty open-ended, where there was much to be done after that story. I thought it was very clear, especially with like the teaser at the end. So I'm surprised this rumor gained any traction at all. Certainly there's plenty of room to explore new stories and new characters in Fallout. That was kind of one of the biggest problems with the series. There's so many different states, so many different factions that we just don't know a lot about. So I think the TV show could be one way of exploring it. I've always said I think Fallout should get into books and comics. I think that would be great. But yeah, I wasn't really concerned that Fallout Season 2 wasn't going to continue the story of Season 1, but this is good to know they're going to focus on existing characters, because I thought they were really good, and now they get to build them out some more. It's interesting to see how Amazon's going to handle this one, because now we're gonna see the will of Todd Howard get tested, right? His big belief of like, I want y'all to miss things for a while, but Amazon giving away all the episodes at once. Like, I could see a world where Amazon's sitting there like, well, now it's time to cash in and do this thing weekly. Like, first 3 episodes we'll give to you like we did with The Boys, and then you're gonna have to wait for each episode afterward, and we'll see how that goes for them. But that quick turnaround time, well, there's not much time to miss Fallout in that window in particular, but things are really heating up on the Fallout front. Again, when you think of like the rumors of Fallout 3 Remaster, you see how 76 is cooking, like we talked about in our last Fallout video about over a week or so ago, and then you see where Season 2 is progressing. It's really exciting to see. And then, last but not least here, Fallout TV series nominated for loads of Emmy Awards at 2024 show, and you'll see here on screen, all of this totaling out to 16 nominations. So, yeah, if it wasn't already apparent, like, this is a absolute hit. I can't imagine a world, like I already talked about with Todd, where like things haven't been accelerated a bit when it comes to the Fallout license. I know that he pretty much confirmed multiple times now there's like 2 things in development for the Fallout franchise that are seemingly not related to 76. So I imagine that seeing things like this continuously is likely accelerating plans around the Fallout license, because if it wasn't already apparent, it is now. This is a cash cow. It is getting critical success, commercial success. It's getting the prestige, the awards, everything, and then some. So that's probably why Season 2 is ahead of schedule, like right away. When you have this as like the #1 TV show in the world for a stretch of time, yeah, you probably want Season 2 out as soon as possible, and likely a game to eventually complement that as quickly as you can. So it's very interesting watching this Fallout situation develop, because then you could set like the near and long term, like, okay, we got Bethesda Game Studios working on stuff for 76, maybe a Fallout 3 remaster, maybe something else mainline down the line. You got Obsidian and sort of like the mid to near term. And then you could do long term and be like, hey, Larian, like, what are you thinking about a little renaissance for the old school Fallout fans? Like, we're getting to that point where the demand is piling up, not just on the side of fans, but like developers, creators want their hands on this license. And so the only thing I'll say is, as a Star Wars fan, as a Marvel fan, be careful with that stuff. Do not get too carried away, but I think like the hands of Larian can easily be trusted to deliver what is effectively more Fallout. But we'll see where things go. This was a fun one, just talking about where Fallout is right now. Season 2, not too far off. And then, of course, we've got more information from Larian on a desire for a Fallout game. So what do you think of this information? Fire away down below. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts. And with that, take excellent care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.